weak, either as a result of poorly defined ethical standards of public service, weak administrative and financial systems.
What can we do to stop it?
At national level, of public institutions that fight corruption. At a personal level, we must commit to never giving a bribe.
I promise I'll never give a bribe.
Well, that's a great decision you have made. Me and you now have to spread this message to all our friends. If we all do our part, corruption will be normal.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digital.
Hey Teddy, have you noticed how little attention science and health issues get in the media?
Totally, Edgar, yet science information is very important.
Yeah, for sure. That's why the Health Journalists Network is here.
How can they help?
They are a group of journalists dedicated to advancing public understanding of healthcare issues through impactful reporting on health and science.
Oh, really?
Yes, they meet up every month with scientists and researchers, policymakers, and activists at the science media cafes. They then relay what they discuss to the public.
Does that benefit us?
Oh yes, very much so. This helps with health and science literacy for a healthy Ugandan society.
Okay. I love getting informed about science and health issues. Health information makes all the difference between life and death. I'll look them up and engage them.
That's great. They are based all over the country.
Oh, okay. That's interesting, and they should be making real impact.
They are empowering health communities through journalism. Journalists can save lives just like doctors.
The Alternative Digital. Real issues, real talk.
Hi Rogers, can I ask you something?
Shoot.
What does corruption mean?
Well, summarily, corruption is abuse of public power for personal gain or for the benefit of a group to which one owes allegiance. For example, when a public office is abused by an official accepting or soliciting a bribe. By the way, private people can be corrupt too, like bribing police officers to escape fines.
Okay. So exactly how does that concern me?
Well, do you pay taxes?
I guess, yeah. What does that have to do with this?
Everything. Because those taxes you pay are supposed to facilitate services you use, like water, electricity, roads construction, medicines in hospitals, name it.
Okay, that is much bigger than I thought. But it can be stopped, right?
Well, yes it can, although it may not be as easy as it sounds. And here is the reason why. Corruption roots are grounded in our country's social, political, economic, bureaucratic traditions and policies.
So, what has kept it going this long? I mean, why don't we stop it?
Well, the main reason why it has been here for so long is because institutions are weak, either as a result of poorly defined ethical standards of public service, weak administrative and financial systems, or ineffective watchdog agencies.
What can we do to stop it?
At a national level, we must focus on strengthening the independence and effectiveness of public institutions that fight corruption. At a personal level, we must commit to never giving a bribe.
I promise I'll never give a bribe.
Well, that's a great decision you have made. Me and you now have to spread this message to all our friends. If we all do our part, corruption will be normal.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digital. The Alternative Digital. Real issues, real talk.
My presumption is that all our viewers are doing well. My name is Tumuhimbise. I always sit in here with a wonderful panel of intellectuals, that even when there are some stories in the corridors that there is some bit of intellectual dishonesty out there when it comes to issues of national importance, I trust that you enjoy the intellectuals that we always host here, because they call a spade a spade. Every Monday, 7 to 9, is when we are privileged to have our panel. Unlike other Mondays today, we are missing Honorable Awich Pola, the Director, External Affairs at NRM. It was an emergency meeting with powers that be, but he communicated and sent his apologies. Nonetheless, still we have a trio with Professor Rogers Barigayomwe. In one way or the other, save for Honorable Awich being NRM, but when it comes to the entirely related issues, I want to believe that Honorable Awich Pola is fully represented by his OB, Professor Rogers Barigayomwe. We're also privileged to have our Council Yvonne Mpambara, who desired at some point to appear on the presidential ballot paper, and as far as we know, she says she was failed. That's what is on record. She was failed by the powers that be, and in particular Electoral Commission. And of course, we had her some time ago where she was putting every allegations on record about how she couldn't make it at the time because of what she termed as imperfections or otherwise by the Electoral Commission. Also, we have with us Mr. Joseph Ochieno. To date, he's still battling in court with the other UPC leaders. Of course, for the seat of the leadership of UPC, that's Uganda People's Congress, one of the oldest political parties in Uganda. In fact, it's a party that helped Uganda attain its independence on 9th October 1962. Here we are with the intellectuals to share their mind on our topic of discussion, but tonight we are going to discuss in particular two issues. We have 365 days of Dr. Besigye's imprisonment, and we are trying to wonder on whether it is Dr. Besigye on trial or the judiciary. It's kind of philosophical, so we'll hear from the three intellectuals to share with us who is trying who and who is being tried. As we move along, we shall also dive deep and hear from them in regards to the statement by the President, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni Tibuhaburwa, in regards to the Indian Ocean. For some reason, if I may simplify what he said, he's not happy with why would Kenyans enjoy the coastline alone. Okay, the landlocked countries, where we go, but that's in our, in our second hour. For the first hour, shall pay all our attention onto the Dr. Besigye's incarceration so far, 1 year, but also not forgetting the NUP and some other opposition members that were arrested in 2021. To date, none of us can tell their fate, because even when the Supreme Court rather asked the General Court Martial to forward and or transfer their files to the DPP so that they could be tried in the civilian courts, sadly, these gentlemen and some ladies are still in Kitaria and some other prisons, pending for the transfer of their files from the General Court Martial to the... But of course, we also await the appointment of the new Court Martial judges, should we say so, among other things that we await as citizens of the Republic of Uganda. The breaking news for today is that the former Bangladesh Prime Minister, one Sheikh, if I may read her name properly, Hasina Wazid, has been sentenced to death because apparently the courts found her guilty for having ordered for the killings, should we call them the murders, of 1,400 Bangladesh citizens during the 2024 demonstrations. The court found her guilty and she has been sentenced to death. We await and we shall be, of course, updating you in the event of any appeal. We are here to inform you. That's what is coming in from the Asian side of the world. Maybe I should, of course, begin with Professor Barigayomwe to say hello to our viewers. There are 3 assignments. Saying hello to our viewers, giving your brief comment about the conviction of the former Bangladesh Prime Minister. Of course, what do you learn from this on behalf of your fellow other intellectuals and lawyers? And of course, summarize for us your week. Then we shall cross to Yvonne and Mr. Ochieno. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Norman. A great evening to our viewers and to my colleagues, Joseph as usual. And I'm always privileged to have my OB or OG. This time I don't have.
By the way, yeah, I forgot to mention you have an OG. When the OB misses, you have an OG.
At least I'm not one of the doubted people who went to school. I always have representatives. Yeah. So we don't have these people who
What do you mean?
There are some people
those who say
start in centers and like
even who say my school no longer exists.
So these schools exist. It's a pleasure to always come to discuss, and I'm proud of Joseph's persistence and Yvonne here to make it. She makes me proud. She's a strong Muchiga woman who always, Vachiga stand by the truth.
Some that haven't really been consistent.
But at least she's a representative of those who stand. Yeah, she's an iron lady. I'm proud to be associated with her. About the Bangladesh issue, it's related to what is happening to the 1-year Kizza Besigye being in prison. And it's a symbol that when you're given power, actually, or the more power you have, the bigger risk you have. And the whole thing is, all of us, the Bible says that he who is given a lot is expected from them. So whenever you're given power, you should use it rightfully. And whenever you liberate, because I will talk about Kizza Besigye, who is one of the liberators, and they thought they had liberated the country. And unfortunately, one of them is being tried. Now it's a year without justice. It's a sign for those ones who are trying him that actually, even them, if they are not careful with how they are using this power is delegated from God, and it should not be misused by any human being. For me, actually, my the only safety is that you use it to advocate for other people's, because at one time all of us will be tried. We are all at risk. Especially my disappointment was Ugandans keeping quiet on this issue of Dr. Kizza Besigye. And as we see from Bangladesh, worldwide, it's just a moment for every one of us. Even us who are not going to be tried on earth here, it's that even in heaven there is a trial. So basically, it should be noted that every human being is waiting for a trial. But whether in this life or the life next. But unfortunately, for those who say that our history, where it's coming from, the ones who condemn the past, and they are continuing to do these vices, it's more unfortunate. And as Ugandans, as all citizens of the world, as an international body, we should stand and say enough is enough. Nobody should be unfairly tried. And so that is my issue of the week. The week is moving on well, and we are studying all these events internationally, and some are very interesting, the ones we are going to discuss, but that's how the world is moving, and I'm happy I have an opportunity, and that's why I said when I have an opportunity for me, I use it, because I know at one time it will be my chance to be tried. I'm more careful actually when I'm given any platform to talk about people's rights.
If I may ask you, Professor, and I should say it's quite important for me to ask you this before I cross to Mpambara and Joseph Ochieno. In fact, the same question also crossed on to them. How best do you think any president or any person that has the executive powers could apply their powers without abusing other powers? Because if you look at the Sheikh Hasina Wazid, who is convicted, she's being accused of ordering for the killings of 1,400 people in Bangladesh last year. One wonders, so how best could such a leader have executed their powers without seeing killings? Because we are driving onto this, relying on so many precedents in Uganda. You remember the Kabaka, the Buganda Kayunga riots. You remember the Bobby Wine arrest sometime towards the elections of 2021. How best do you think such a situation ought to be managed by those that have power without, of course, without people abusing the law and or causing chaos? Because I've heard Mr. Museveni talk about insurrection. We manage this insurrection. How do you think such people ought to have managed such insurrections, if we could put them in quotes?
Anyone who has excessive power or power, the best they can use it is, one, to institutionalize such that you're exonerated in case of anything. There are institutions which are accountable. And definitely, as a leader, you should not interfere with these institutions to basically make sure you're not caught in between. And the other thing, of course, is people. I wonder why people like the power, because it is real risky, and in any case, they should take it for a short time, because I've personally taken responsibility, but any responsibility has its sacrifices and risks. So when I see people who still like to hold on beyond time, or all these offices are given for a time because they have a lot of responsibility and risk. So the only thing is to hold it as shortly as possible. Then also to put institutions such that, because all of us who have power have personal weaknesses, such that when your personal weakness comes in, it does not put you at risk, because then an institution is answerable, not you as an individual. So this is now where many people get it wrong, that one, they want to hold on to the power, which is very risky. Then the other thing, they interfere even then with the institutions. Instead, they would strengthen the institution so that we make sure the institutions rise beyond the individuals. If
I gave you 40 seconds to state the specific key lesson by you and that you would wish other leaders to learn.
In 40 seconds, I would really say power is a very risky resource. We should, in any case, take due diligence as we try to have it. And we should actually, before, we should do a personal evaluation of ourselves if we have power. Like, personally, whatever word, because you are going to be accountable at any time for any action you've done. So you should do a self-evaluation, and it goes to all these political leaders, especially now people who are campaigning, wanting posts. Some of them just look at the monetary value, and they don't look at the risky value of their power.
Okay, thank you, Professor Rogers. Let me cross to Yvonne Mpambara. Even when she has put on blue, she doesn't subscribe to FDC, but she may be at heart, she likes people who, she sympathizes with the blue people. Yeah, PFF actually, it also has blue. Yeah, shout to our viewers, and you will answer the very questions that I asked Professor Rogers, but maybe for a reminder, it's yesterday but one on 15th November is when Dr. Besigye was arrested. Some lawyers have mentioned and used kidnap, so many other words, abduction.
Abducted.
Gladly, he had appeared here with us on Friday, and he was arrested on Saturday. So he had left here with his show, the interface. So we are the last people to have him on record. And his show, I want to believe, I think the management considered having his show run tomorrow, a year ago. Tell us, as a politician, activist, and a lawyer, how does it make you feel to hear that someone who once treated the president as a personal physician, many have termed him as a hero, and he belongs to the first 200 NRA fighters, being in prison for now a year, and to so many, especially lawyers, think that it's the judiciary on trial, not Besigye. Proceed from there.
Do I still first answer the...
No. I was giving some bit of a springboard for you to because you have to say hello.
Good evening, our viewers, and to all those who have tuned in and at whatever particular intervals or times. I greet you all. Thank you for hosting us, Norman and your team. And I think I'll kick off just from what you had earlier discussed about the Bangladesh former...
Yeah, sure.
It's very important. I would think there's been a very heated discussion from the globe in general about the death sentence, especially the kind of precedent it carries when it comes to that amount of power being invested either in certain persons to be able to conduct something like that. Because I would assume our president having the power to put someone to death, and it would scare me because I don't know how many of his opponents by now would have. Dead. So much as it sets a very good example in terms of the next leaders learning a lesson, or leaders around the world learning a similar lesson, it also sets a very dangerous precedent in terms of the misuse of power of the death sentence. And I think that's why around the world it has been a very heated discussion on whether it should either be made an absolute right, or it remains largely debatable on whether, you know, it's
Are you for or against?
Exclusion. I'm definitely against.
What about those that are being killed on someone's orders? Are you also giving them justice? Because there's in the law, you know, I know you know what we call a deterrent sentence. So don't you think that could also deter a one leader that is likely to kill or give orders to kill others, and then okay, you kill one, you save the rest of the leaders in the future?
Well, I mean, before the law, you're not guilty until you're tried.
She was
and found guilty. She was tried, yes. But then again, that precedent.
Okay.
Because if we are talking about the precedent of setting something like that, of setting a death penalty as an actual sentence that you want to live in the power of leaders who might have to exercise at a given point. We see what has been happening in Congo. Congo has been talking about executing Kabila.
Mpambara, kindly let us, for some reason and for the benefit of our viewers, also interrogate 1,400 citizens peacefully demonstrating in Bangladesh. A one was orders for their killings, and she is tried. Remember, the other 1,400 weren't tried. Well, some person would call it extrajudicial killings by those that have the power. So she's tried, sentenced to death, you know, for ordering for the murders of 1,400. I do not know whether I want to go by the biblical word of an eye for an eye to make all of us blind. But
no, there's so many forms of justice. There are so many forms of justice, but to me, I do not think I would agree with the death sentence. I don't think I would agree with it. It sets a very strong example for other leaders never to do the same thing again, but then again, you cannot leave such a power to other leaders to execute. It becomes very dangerous in the hands of the wrong hands. But so anyway, we'll assume it happens that way, that, you know, if you've done something wrong, that's what happens. You've killed people. That eye for an eye eventually becomes very dangerous. Because like I've given you the examples, there are certain powers that will still take advantage of it and use it the wrong way. What has been happening globally, I think even the former French president has been sent to jail. And I think he's among the first ever presidents to actually go to jail for previous misconduct, misuse of funds. I don't know. I think there was a much wider story to it than that. So it's clearly...
Sarkozy? Is it Nicolas Sarkozy?
I think so.
Oh, okay.
So I think the world is also slowly setting a trend in terms of people that have absolute power that misbehave, that I feel is slowly going to start infiltrating into the rest. So we are yet to see what's going to happen to big man.
Don't mention Uganda. Okay.
I'll not mention. So now that will bring us to this case we are looking at right here. A retired Colonel Kizza Besigye having been in jail for a year, and the different situations we've witnessed as a country, not even just as a country, as a region, to our shock that he's abducted from Kenya, a country we assumed is safe, because all the way from other years and centuries, I think these countries have always been where we go for refuge, asylum. They've always been the safe countries. So for us to find out that, you know, one of our own has been abducted from Kenya and brought to Uganda to be tried on very shady charges, it's a scary thing. Because if we are looking at the idea of East African integration, is that what we are thinking about? Is that what we are thinking about? So it showed that regionally, that integration we are thinking about is degenerating, because instead of going progressively, now we are going against the citizens themselves. We're going against the citizens themselves. So it's unfair that government has been curbing Besigye down for such a long time, because it's not the first time we're seeing something like this happen, all the way from 2000s, I think, 2005. He's been in jail so many times for different charges, for different reasons, and we feel it's so repetitive that it becomes very difficult even to trust government that what they're doing is right.
If I may ask you, just in a second, sorry, if I may ask you, if we are in Mr. Museveni's shoes, you here, because now we're using this analogy, you are in Museveni's shoes, so you are Museveni, and here Mpambara is in Nairobi. You know, you are trying to rely on the intelligence that Mpambara is trying, you know, to do dubious activities against you. How best would you have managed such a situation?
You're putting me in his shoes?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay,
who's
no,
okay. You here? Okay,
I did not try to
Mpambara, you are a president of a specific country. You here, Professor Rogers is planning something. How best would you have managed such a situation?
The problem is we've seen all these tricks so many times. It becomes very hard to trust an institution that has played so many games, so many political gimmicks, so many games. Because if it has been happening for this long to Besigye, then it has also happened to certain members of opposition over time. Why are we trusting that the government is doing the right thing? How many cases have been brought against Besigye? The first one was about him raping, I think, a house. Someone was helping in his house. The second, there have been so many. So how are we supposed to believe in 2025 or 2024 when he was arrested out of the blue that he's being accused of treason? And that was not even the first time. How are we supposed to believe government that they're actually not lying, that Museveni is not lying?
The same
He's done the same thing.
You see, Mpambara, the same way they would say, previously, he never spent a whole year with us. Now we could be having something tangible, a reason for which he spent the whole year. But proceed from there. I'm trying to ensure that...
It still can be an excuse, because also we've had political prisoners over time that have been in those jails, most of whom we don't even know. They've disappeared in there. How long have we been running those hashtags that we need to release all political prisoners in Uganda? Demanding for the release of opposition members that have disappeared inside jail. They've been years and years. So it's still not an excuse for them to say that Besigye, this is what he has done, we believe in it, and then you assume that the population is going to allow it. It's not. It's not, because you've played the same tricks over and over for decades.
What do you make of the judiciary now when it comes to the doctrine of separation of powers? Do you consider them independent? In particular, when it comes to Dr. Besigye and some other political prisoners?
I think that was even a debate we had recently when I was with Mr. Ochieno, when we were discussing the achievements of the Constitution, or how far it has come, and we're looking at the separation of powers and how they performed honestly, we all know in Uganda that the judiciary has now failed to independently work because Museveni has sat on it. He will give the orders and tell you, if I don't want this to shift, it will not shift. He will tell you, I'm going to pay this one, they pay them. That case will never move, or they will do whatever they want to do.
What do you call the Supreme Court ruling against the General Court Martial? If you want to say it is not independent.
But you see what happened after that? What happened after that ruling? They passed a UPDF Act.
That's Parliament.
No. But who was controlling even that passing of that? Because the
Anita
Supreme Court had
Monga
clearly
speak
said...
with her deputy.
No. At times they also know that they are passing these things, but they know the executive is going to. It's not going to allow it to pass. It's not going to allow it to.
How independent? How many marks would you give judiciary in terms of their independence?
A 3 out of 10. They've
2.
done a 3.
Oh, okay.
They're not independent. They're not independent. They're under the rule and control of Museveni. We have to be honest about that, because Museveni will wake up tomorrow and abuse them and insult them, and they will obey and they will cower. They will cower. They will pass they will rule in favor of citizens not being tried in court martial, but at the end of the day they have no power to actually execute. How does it happen that after they
proceed. Sorry.
How does it happen that after that Parliament can still confidently pass a UPDF Act that still tries civilians in the court martial? How?
I think the argument was that even when the General Court Martial chooses to do so, it should be presided over by land friends.
No.
One of the highlights
No,
they made,
no,
and a reason for
because-
which they don't mind having, Parliament may not mind having the General Court Martial instituted and under custodianship of land friends, who to the Supreme Court's wisdom was that the likes of Freeman and others literally, they did not qualify.
No.
And maybe that can be another argument for some time.
No. And I think that's why we've been bringing the argument that the reason why we would not want civilians tried in the court martial is because high courts are capable of trying those same cases. They don't have to go to court commercial. As long as someone is a civilian, they have no right to try them. Because High Court is capable of handling that. The normal courts of Uganda are capable of handling those cases. So you're undermining.
I will bring the same question to Professor Rogers slightly later after Mr. Joseph Ochieno, because one still wonders, Mpambara, why would a civilian fear to be tried in a general court martial that is being presided over by land friends, not just the military appointees?
Why?
I'll come to you.
Why should they?
Why should they?
And why not? You see, everyone wants to
But you
answer
see,
the why.
that's why I've told
Also
you.
answer the why not. But
Sorry, that's why I've told you that you're undermining the independence of the normal courts,
It should
because
not be
that's
debatable.
their role.
Does that qualify general court martial being an abnormal court?
It's too obnoxious.
But it's not their role to try civilians. It's
obnoxious.
not.
Let me give you a minute and ask you about where you mentioned the East African community as a bloc. When it comes to Dr. Besigye's abduction, if I may apply the word, and of course you look at the two most recently now taken activists back to Kenya. Of course, all of these games in courts are played by the chief player, if I should say, Uganda as a country, being presided over by Mr. Museveni as our that's the official player. Yeah, where does such leave the image and or the entire protocol of the East African community?
I mean, it's not even just that. Agatha, my friend, recently.
Yeah, by the way, Agatha in TZ. Yeah,
what happened to her in Tanzania? She was tortured. There was another Kenyan national who was tortured from there as well. The Kenyan gentleman who had come to campaign for Bobi Wine, same thing. They were kept in a fridge or refrigerator, as the president's son said. I think it's very disappointing that instead of progressing towards integration and a federation, that we're regressing towards civilian abuse. It's very unfortunate, and I don't know which games now they are playing. I don't know if this is their idea of maybe how they are going to bring all our brains together to start fighting as a one East African federation or one East African community. But I feel this is not the level where we should be retrogressing from. Conversations, say, around the ocean should be very important. But it can be in isolation. It can be in isolation. You cannot be abusing civilians in the different East African countries, but at the same time, you're talking about progress of we need access to the sea.
Okay, I'll cut you short and cross to Mr. Joseph Ochieno, but also to remind you that the president clearly said that those two gentlemen were experts in the demonstrations. And okay, Mr. Ochieno, proceed. Let's begin.
Who said that one?
The president. Remember the previous week, Mr. Museveni said that those two they had selected here to help Bobby Wine to organize demonstrations, that they are experts, and I mark his word, experts in demonstrations. But of course, let's begin from there.
And what is he expert in?
Keeping peace and Pan-Africanism. But proceed, that's what he says. Proceed from there, say hello to our viewers, and you give us your, your take home when it comes to the former Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Dr. Besigye is 1 year in jail. Who is trying who?
Do I have to start off in a particular order?
Choose,
it's a pleasure to be here, really. Sometimes when I'm lucky that you don't start with me, and usually by the second time, by the time I am about to be reached, sometimes I feel so despondent, and I keep on asking myself, am I wasting time? Am I wasting my fuel, particularly this terrible end potholes of Kampala? We've sung and sung and sung. That's what the Okello used to say. You sing. We've gone through this thing after so many years, and we're going around. One. But number two, you get the arguments being made by my fantastic friends, both of them are land, and you see the hollowness, and you sort of can't believe that this is an independent nation state called the Republic of Uganda, that my party fought for our independence. And you can't believe that this is 2025. And you can't believe that this is Uganda that is 45 years after Idi Amin. And you can't believe that the bunch who are in charge are certainly people who've gone to school, who, unfortunately for me, sometimes I use that word unfortunately, they even went to fantastic UPC schools because they're not really terribly illiterate. Some of them might be emotionally illiterate, some of them might be spiritually drained. But these seem to be sensible, reasonable human beings. Sometimes you see them on television and they really boast, and they look decent guys. And once in a while you meet some of these people and their associates, and they're not particularly bad people. I don't know. So it's really genuinely irritating. And so that is 12 months of Kizza Besigye's miseries in a criminal jail. I attended one of those trials. I only went once, and I didn't go back for many reasons, including I thought that day when they assaulted Aaron Kizza, I was there. I was there with Martha Karua. I was there with one or two other colleagues from elsewhere. I was actually the most senior political leader from Ugandan perspective there with Martha. And I sort of had to apologize to these people that, because Martha really was nearly manhandled herself. It was not particularly a decent scene. This is much in the Norman.
Yeah, as we see on the screen. Yeah,
Norman, lest you forget, Yvonne, the incident that involved Aaron Kizza in court, I was within reasonably close proximity.
As you can see there, that's exactly.
That was now the much later one, but the initial process starting from the court, how they had to pull him off.
Itself,
how they put,
That's it, yeah.
It was terrible, but traumatizing and very traumatic, including for me, who's sort of reasonably seasoned. And so I go back to Bangladesh. 29 years ago, I was an activist. 29 years ago, I was amongst the senior leaders of the party pushing for return to pluralism in Uganda. And 29 years ago, I was massively engaging on a daily basis with Cecile Ogwal. Here in Uganda House, and I was in London. So there was this push for the 1996 NRA elections. And of course the party was divided on whether or not we should participate in the elections following the NRA 1995 constitution with a crude, obnoxious provision that banned political parties. I was on the side that simply said that this was an insult to Ugandans, have been proven right, and that we didn't need to have anything to do with it. Strategically, and quite rightly, a number of our colleagues believed that we needed to participate in the process, and that includes Cecile Ogwal. Unfortunately, Cecile and a few others, I'll say it for the record, their push for participation were more than strategic. There are some other interests, including foreign interests, trying to push their direction. Milton Obote and I, and most party leaders, believed, I think strategically, you could see the argument from the other side that we needed to participate. So leading towards the elections, elections take place in Bangladesh. And the Awami League, the party of Sheikh Salina, was then the opposition political party. The military and the strong men and a few women like the NRA guys here play around with the process. And so the Awami League, the opposition, decide that the process had been so fudged that there was no need for going for second round election. So they decided that they're not going to leave the streets of Dakar. They're not going to leave the streets of Dakar unless and until the other side came to a concession. These guys went to the streets. I think it was nearly 3 months. Bangladesh was at a halt. Yvonne, Bangladesh was at a halt. So much that the power of the people, I don't want to use people power, which has now been used, sort of abused and misrepresented, but I was a supporter of people power as a movement in the Republic of Uganda. So the power of the people compelled the Bangladeshi authorities, you know, guys, these things can happen, compelled the Bangladeshi authority to carve in. Fresh elections were held, and the Awami League won. The opposition won the elections. My point is, I did not follow Bangladesh very much since then. But the reason why I put it in context is now this is the Bangladesh of today. But because of that, I was telling Cecile Ogwal and our UPC colleagues, and indeed UPC and DP colleagues here, that as we're approaching the NRA fudged elections of 1995, the Musevenis had already put on military suits, say they're not going to leave there, they're not going to hand over to Semogerere. They put Obote's, Milton Obote was an extremely handsome man, but he was now old. So they put this funny head of his in Bogeyman, Obote the ghost. No, Obote is a spirit in heaven, and you guys will be very lucky to go and sit next to Jesus where Milton Obote is, because I know people in this crude regime who will find it extremely hard to go anywhere, not in heaven, but near heaven. So anyway, so what happens is this. We were saying NRA had opened new polling stations, because this is a very important conversation, consider that we're going towards elections. NRA had opened many polling stations. In fact, there's alleged 100 new polling stations in Kampala. Of course, things have changed since, you know. And so many things, abductions, terror, blocking, Semogero going to campaign in other places like they're trying to do with Chagulanyi and others. So remember, this is Ochieno, this is part of a paragraph in my memoirs to be, that look, Sisi, you had been telling us that our foreign friends, so-called donor communities, are telling us to participate in these sham no-party elections. And so we are participating in part because of their pressure. If we don't, we're going to look back bad at them as if they determine our sovereignty. But that's a different topic. But also guys in opposition, and this is important for guys in the campaigns, were saying to us that, look, Joseph, we are getting huge support in the rallies. And Obote had told them that you may have 1 million people in a rally, but that 1 million is not the ballots. You don't guarantee that they'll be translated in the vote. So our argument was, why don't we defy this thing? I'm revealing this, I'm sure, in Museveni's crude intelligence. Some of them, some very ugly guys in London used to follow me. So I know, they have the information. So we're pushing that, no, let's defy these things. Stay firm until, one, they lift Article 269, and they lift the ban on Article 269. Two, repeal, and then you young lawyers and young activists, we push for constitutional review. We push for a creation of an environment in which there is a level playing field where parties and leaders and organizations can go and participate in the election freely and fairly, and people are not treated the way they've treated young Yvonne here, who wanted to participate in the elections. So we're using Bangladesh. I was telling you, Cecilia, you see, it can work. Obviously, we lost that argument, but I thought I'd bring it. But shockingly, that is now the leader of Awami League, who, over a period of time, they become so intolerant. And so orders for the killing, again, I didn't really follow too much of those details, and she's now being subjected to the death penalty. But Yvonne, Uganda actually has a death penalty in the statutes. Number two, you need to know, I'm very proud, UPC, that I'm fundamentally opposed to the death penalty, and that a future UPC government, one of the first things I would seek to do is to kill death penalty. Is an extremely archaic and outdated thing. But number three, that under two UPC administrations, my president, along the line, said he does not have the right, even if the death penalty is granted by courts, to sign, of course, the presidents would normally do. So where I don't necessarily agree with you is that you can have that in the statute, but you remember the last time Museveni signed it to kill people,
of Kasim Obura and Sebirumbi.
He killed those people, like this Sebirumbi here. Haji Sebirumbi in normal times is supposed to be, and I'm saying it, repeating on the camera, in Luwero. Sebirumbi was a UPC chairman, UPC chairman who was defending a democratically elected government. And we know one of the reasons why Sebirumbi was killed was because Museveni thought Sebirumbi would be on their sides, the sides of the bandits.
But
Sebirumbi is a nationalist.
I think in his writings he says that Sebirumbi personally executed Rita Maguzi. That's what. Okay, that's what we read.
There's no. As a district chairperson, there's been no need for that. I don't know the details, but it's almost certainly unlikely. But anyway, like Museveni, they say about some of these things. But anyway, Sebirumbi was killed, was murdered by these NRA guys. He's a national hero. He's not that. But in any case, neither here nor there. So this death penalty thing can be used by crude guys. You see the guys who boast about death penalty and they appear breaking people in rail wagons. Nobody should really order the killing of anybody. And that's why we're saying, as we're having this debate, Besigye's fight and all those ones, we need to reach a stage in which we reinstitutionalize politics, in which we reinstitutionalize governance, and we create a situation in which we're able to agree to disagree, go through electoral process, we have good winners, we have good losers, and then winners try to do the best of what they can, and like my colleagues say, serve your time and then try and let go. Bangladesh has now already gone substantial vicious circle. It's very unfortunate. But to conclude you want to say something before I say something?
It's a bit of a rejoinder or something?
No, okay, personally, you had asked me to comment. I don't believe I've really...
I wanted to... okay, but it's
well. Conclude.
What do you think? Is it a rejoinder to his...
It was a rejoinder, yes, but I can conclude.
That's fine, you can share your...
I come in.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Yeah, so coming to Besigye, which I had talked about Besigye, but you realize it was not about the Besigye, but giving an important background. And that's why the Besigye saga is extremely unfortunate. Unfortunate, unfair, but the impunity on African continent compels me to say in East Africa, if only talk about the East African community. No, we don't have an East African community. The last East African community we had was of Julius Nyerere, Jomo Kenyatta and Milton, but we've never had another East African community. The rest is a boy guy's game. At the moment, it's really a bunch of dictators basically controlling the region. No, Africans are alone, and East Africans are alone. Besigye, unfortunately, Rogers, you said they went to liberate. I want to say no. The 1981 Luwero War that Besigye very blindly joined was not a liberation war. It was a war of terror against the citizens of the Republic of Uganda, against the democratically elected government. Now, to the extent that Besigye did that and was lured into that for whatever reason, and goes down there and they subject Ugandans to terror, but saves Mr. Museveni to that. is the more reason why I think the Besigye who commits himself, he comes back in 1986. I don't want to be too harsh. I was going to be harsh, you know. Very confident, decent, young, Muchiga, completely convictionist, driving this whole thing for NRA. I see his write-up of 1999, which causes him problem. Again, half of it I don't agree, but it's a different thing. But you see a man who genuinely believes, you may not agree with him, believes a particular direction for a good Republic of Uganda. That Besigye is a man that has been betrayed by NRA. That Besigye is a man who it's completely unacceptable that in our faces he should spend 1 year in a criminal jail, having been criminally pulled from Kenya. There is no circumstance under which a Besigye would have happened in a UPC-1, a Besigye would happen under UPC-2 that they were fighting, and never will it ever happen in a UPC-3 in which I'm involved. I think how we're able to depoliticize this thing and make it really as a national symbol, regardless of the devil's advocate case you put to Yvonne, regardless of whatever he may or may not have done. I have argued from the beginning, if Besigye committed an offense, the sensible thing for the Ugandan NRA authorities to do is subject this guy to due process of the law.
Okay.
If it's not anything like that, Besigye should be released long time ago. It's a shame that Besigye is in jail. NRA guys are campaigning around the country. They're not being challenged. And Besigye, we may pass the election time and NRA gets away with it through the ballot.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ochieno. I'm coming to you, and you will close our remaining minutes into the second hour. But of course, I want to believe that Mr. Ochieno, most likely, you know that there are some people out there who say, and I don't know how your comment stands, that your UPC government had a hand in Mutesa's death far away in UK. Those who have that thought, don't you think they can also, you know, that you could have, you as in UPC, you could have taught Mr. Museveni that you can also stretch your hand to the neighborhood and deal with your opponent? That
is simplistic, and I'm tired of that narrative. And like Yvonne was saying at the beginning, coming from you guys as the fourth estate, the more you even attempt that, it's actually a wrong example to use, because it erupts into the hands of
my role is
dictators.
to inform you what the public says.
I'm not saying, I'm coming to that.
Take it in good faith.
Absolutely fine. I'm simply saying that it is such a tempting thing to soothe the NRA criminality and the extremes. You know, no, of course, you don't think that
in 40 seconds across.
You don't think they're men of Baganda. They're men of Baganda who think so, but it's false. Okay. Mutesa was not killed. Mutesa died from...
I have read somewhere, I think last week also, that part of the post-mortem report, okay, you know there can always be many reports, like for Kaida, there are Scotland Yard and so many other reports. And one of the reports was saying that he had been intoxicated, and of course by the time he died there were even some bit of wine glasses in his room, like lots of theories behind.
I think you're going to that, and I'm going to say that. No, no. So Sir Edward was a great friend of Milton Obote. I'm a friend to the family of Sir Edward, and it is something that I take very strongly. I was a net contributor shortly before Milton Obote died. One of the efforts I was making was to bring together the families, and the families are on talking terms. I'm giving you this as an authority. That said, Sir Edward died from alcoholic poisoning, meaning too much alcohol in his body. Okay. That's what killed him. Nothing else killed him.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Joseph Ochieno. Now, Professor Rogers, and I have quite, just we're heading to a break. First respond to them, then I come back and give you...
On this comment, on this I don't think I've really contributed, but let me give a personal story that Uganda is going to circles. Using the narrative, you had issues with the UPC. Using the narrative of the Rakasisi narrative, definitely we as a country, and I thank you, Norman, with this station, that now we are starting to have a real conversation as a country. And these conversations are what Uganda should have. Rakasisi said it in a reconciliation mood, and it wanted, State House tried to manipulate what he wanted to say for their support. But what he was saying, and it has been sort of the philosophy we've been holding, that I've tried two issues to say, were these NRM, including my father, justified to go and stage a political, since they've reversed all these issues? So one of the thesis I'm saying, were they justified to go and fight and leave me at that time, about 3 years, 2 years, traumatized as a child? Before I came to this station, Norman, you called me, and my daughter, who I was with just down here, and we took a picture with Dr. Besigye, said, are you going to that same station? And they arrest you tonight. The way, and I almost made it not to come. It's trauma all Ugandans were passing through. Because one, I will tell you that these NRM, who are fathers to some of us, need to repent to this country if they went for a wrong cause, so that they reverse it. Ochieno talked about Cecilia Ogwal. In Arua, my father, who was a very vigilant RDC that time, went to stop a UPC rally by Cecilia Ogwal. Besigye himself in Rukunjiri went to sabotage a rally of Semwogerere. At that time, they were so radical for NRM, and they did not know they had been duped in a thing by someone, and they genuinely thought they are capping a resistance to bring peace. Just 10 years after that, they all became a victim. Because I will tell you that after that, Besigye started his paper, which was against government, and he was being victimized. And I'm talking to these RDCs and some of these security people who are vigilant in these things. I'm a victim. Shortly, even Muzei Barigayomwe, they were all forced out of government. The following years, we didn't have school fees. Imagine the next term. We paid our own price for acting, for our... So the following years, the following terms, we didn't all have school fees at all because of a vigilant man who was not... You get it? Now, this Besigye you see, and my own father followed a system they didn't understand, and they paid a price. From Rakasisi narratives of this power we are talking about, and you said, he said that he had excessive power, which he abused. And at that time, he didn't know that he would account for it. Equally, some people have this excessive power, and for them it is actually, unlike the UPCs who had held it for 10, this one is for 40 years, and some people think it will never
get off their hands.
End. And some have benefited from it even tangibly with a lot of resources that they will not even allow a decent conversation of a transition.
Okay.
And definitely what I'm telling you as a victim is that, in a way, I will tell you the truth, Besigye is paying a price. In a way, Muzei, my father, he paid his own price.
Extended it to you also.
In a way, yeah, all these people, unless we talk about reconciliation, all these people, in a way, Ochieno is paying a price of UPC, of UPC having, at one time not considered transition. In a way, every member
at some point
of the establishment right now should just prepare their checks to pay a price for them or their children.
Okay.
So there is no running away from that, as we discussed. Now, the unfortunate situation as we leave this topic is the judiciary assisting systems to abuse power. That even where our fathers, these NRM, who had refuge to run to Tanzania, to Kenya. For our generation, we have no refuge. We just have to sacrifice ourselves in this country because we have nowhere to run to. For them, they had a chance that they ran to Kenya and Tanzania, and that's why their cause was sort of assisted. But in our generation, we have nowhere to run. So we are going to commit suicide in our own country because we have nowhere
You will
to
not
run.
commit suicide. We shall be here and get you counselors so that you don't commit suicide.
We are traumatized. So,
But for sure, Professor, you see, some things just hard to also believe and or stomach. Imagine a situation where a professor is traumatized. What about a foot soldier? Like they call it. But of course, I will not expect your answer now. Colleagues, we are breaking shortly, but of course the breaking story now as we speak, a few seconds, minutes ago, the President of the Republic of Uganda, in his wisdom, has appointed the former IGG Honorable Betty Kamia Turuomwe as Presidential Advisor General Duties. Let's come back. We're coming back shortly.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Hi, Rogers. Can I ask you something?
Shoot.
What does corruption mean?
Well, summarily, corruption is abuse of public power for personal gain or for the benefit of a group to which one owes allegiance. For example, when a public office is abused by an official accepting or soliciting a bribe. By the way, private people can be corrupt too, like bribing police officers to escape fines.
Okay. So exactly how does that concern me?
Well, do you pay taxes?
I guess, yeah. What does that have to do with this?
Everything. Because those taxes you pay are supposed to facilitate services you use, like water, electricity, roads construction, medicines in hospitals, name it.
Okay, that is much bigger than I thought. But it can be stopped, right?
Well, yes, it can, although it may not be as easy as it sounds. And here is the reason why. Corruption roots are grounded in our country's social, political, economic, bureaucratic traditions and policies.
So, what has kept it going this long? I mean, why don't we stop it?
Well, the main reason why it has been here for so long is because institutions are weak, either as a result of poorly defined ethical standards of public service, weak administrative and financial systems, or ineffective watchdog agencies.
What can we do to stop it?
At a national level, we must focus on strengthening the independence and effectiveness of public institutions that fight corruption. At a personal level, we must commit to never giving a bribe.
I promise I'll never give a bribe.
Well, that's a great decision you have made. Me and you now have to spread this message to all our friends. If we all do our part, corruption will be normal.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digital.
Hey Teddy, have you noticed how little attention science and health issues get in the media?
Totally. Edgar, yet science information is very important.
Yeah, for sure. That's why the Health Journalists Network is here.
How can they help?
They are a group of journalists dedicated to advancing public understanding of healthcare issues through impactful reporting on health and science.
Oh, really?
Yes, they meet up every month with scientists and researchers, policymakers, and activists at the science media cafes. They then relay what they discuss to the public.
Does that benefit us?
Oh yes, very much so. This helps with health and science literacy for a healthy Ugandan society.
Okay. I love getting informed about science and health issues. Health information makes all the difference between life and death. I'll look them up and engage them.
That's great. They are based all over the country.
Oh, okay. That's interesting, and they should be making real impact.
They are empowering health communities through journalism. Journalists can save lives just like doctors.
Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Gladly we are back, and we thank you for your patience. Sometimes we wish we couldn't break because of such heated debates, but of course, as a procedure, then you also have to give people a break, and so that they can have some bit of a deep breath. We are back. I will ask our producer to first of all give us that short clip of the president in regards to the Indian Ocean. That's going to shape our discussion as we come back just in a few seconds. Of course, Mr. Museveni's speech is what would guide us into our remaining minutes to discuss the Indian Ocean question, if I may use it that way. Let's come back in just after watching this short video.
Because Uganda, even if you wanted to build a navy, how can you build it? We don't have access to the sea. The political organization in Africa is so irrational. Some of the countries have no access to the sea. For economic purposes, but also for defense purposes, you are stuck. How do I export my products? That's why we have got endless discussion with Kenya, then this one stops, then another one comes, then the railway, the pipeline, the what, we discuss. But that ocean belongs to me. Because where is my ocean? I am entitled to that ocean. In future, we are going to have wars. In the future, we are going to have wars. How can you say that you are in a block of flats, that the compound belongs to only the flats on the ground floor, that the compound belongs to the whole block. All the flats are entitled to the compound.
Yeah.
There's no way you can say. So may I just watch these people? You are really endangering yourself. How can you have a situation like this? Uganda is landlocked inside here. But where is my ocean? My ocean is the Indian Ocean. So, no, it belongs, really, me. I'm on the top floor of the block. And then you say the compound belongs only the ones on the ground floor. This is madness. So that's why I say, you people, you better unite economically for the sake of prosperity, if you want prosperity. Market. But if you want stability, and also strengthen the world, so that you can go to the moon also, you go to the moon. The ones who have been to the moon are big ones, not smaller people.
Superpowers.
The Americans, the Chinese, the Russians, and the Indians now. Our friends, the British, are still here with us. On Earth, they have not gone. They can't go. It's too much. One country can't manage. The French are here with us. All these fellows, except those four, because size matters. So that's why we say, you people, why don't you look at East Africa so that you deal with the issue of strategic security? These are the 7 points in the manifesto.
I want to think that that's enough, and of course it gives us a very wonderful preamble. But of course also from myself is a preamble. I would also want to add on to Mr. Museveni's one, and to remind the public that on 29th October 1978, His Excellency Idi Amin Dada attacked TZ, and of course with an attempt, with the intention to annex Kagera region to Uganda. We all remember as historians and of course as intellectuals. In 1996, with the help of the, of course, Ugandan government, there is no doubt that UPDF, of course, supported Laurent José Kabila to go to Congo, And 1997, Mobutu Sese Seko Kuku Wazabanga was no more. In 1990, of course, also, UPDF men, at the time I think there were no women that helped them move to Rwanda through Mirama Hills, September 31st, 1990. I mentioned some of the Ugandans that were part of that war, and of course that's back in the day Lieutenant Okwi Raboni. There was Anthony Chakabade, I think he passed on and buried last week or thereabout. He was one of the people that supported RPF. But also there was another war, of course, between Ugandans and RPF, a 6-day war in Kisangani in 2000. I'm giving that preamble for us to understand the dynamics when it comes to regional and regional politics. But also some time ago, Mr. Museveni, and I will use his very, very Swahili words, he said, and I quote in verbatim, hakuna mtu wa Kenya atavua nsumaki kutoka kwa Mijingo. You all remember when there was an issue with the Mijingo Island, and he went there and said, no Kenyan will fish, not even one somaki. That's one fish, yeah? From Mijingo Island. So the gentleman is back, saying, as you have heard, he is entitled to Indian Ocean. Colleagues, the gentleman is very, very, very particular in his words. I do not know whether we would consider him as anti-geography, because geography put Uganda this side and put Kenya the other side. Professor, beginning from there, what do you pick from Mr. Museveni's words? He needs Indian Ocean, by the way, first of all. It's something you should also consider as you speak.
For once, I side with Mr. Museveni.
Hey, you see? Because your father was one of, them.
I listened to the speech extensively, and I picked his mind. Because, these days he speaks so arrogantly that some people, he doesn't mind his speech, so people just pick that aspect of, and sometimes last time fridge, then the ocean is mine. But this was the spirit which Mr. Museveni was using. And he tried to elaborate it that if you're on the floor, 50 floors, and you can't have access to the ground floor. He used another illustration of, like, imagine I'm with Sade. He was talking like Kenyans are brothers, and in the room, and he doesn't give me access. Then I'm like, this man also is sometimes disturbed. And now imagine in his party, NRM, where he does not for 40 years give people even access to be the chairman, and vice has also felt it. Yes, as a human, he's felt that inhuman, like ring fencing off.
He's testing the pain.
Yeah, he's testing the pain, because ring fencing, if you see Africa, there are no boundaries. Those boundaries were created by Bismarck. Africa naturally has no boundaries. So, the leader, I'm a chairman of Labour Party. What people don't know, and I have documents to share with you, Norman, is that the first party people say is the Democratic Party. Never. The first party with a legical number in Uganda is the Labour Party. Its leader, Daudi Sekuma, said, opposed Uganda or East Africa to go, like Uganda to be independent alone, and Kenya and Tanzania. He was like, we have to get independent as East Africa. Incidentally, if we got independent as East Africa, then we would have East Africa as a country, and Uganda would have access to a coastline. So the players now, later, for their selfish means, the people who came later after the DPs and everything, for them, they tried to get independence as a single unit and Uganda. And that makes us suffer as a country. And then we've been subjected to lack of access to the coastline. So, Labour Party, and in this case, this is where I can, because I doubt that the president is willing to discuss issues of East African cooperation, because if we have to talk about the political federation of East Africa, he would lose monopoly over Uganda. And that's why I believe maybe he's not so interested, because if he's so interested, let him appoint me as a minister of East Africa and I'll make it happen. Because East Africa can come as one even tomorrow. because we have the same issues. Right now, the political issues of Tanzania, which was the only country which was independent, and Kenya and Uganda are the same. Until we have political federation, where political parties like mine, the Labour Party, can operate in Tanzania, can operate in Kenya, in Rwanda. Their NRM, ODM, all those fake parties cannot operate in East Africa because they have just selfish issues about their principles are more about their countries. Yet, like first in the Labour, we talk about free movement. One of the issues which was in the East African Protocol is the free movement of labor. By now, a Ugandan should be going to work in Tanzania and Kenya without being asked for working visa.
So Karua being grilled here.
That he has to apply and everything. So these guys are just comedians. They don't wish East African well. President Museveni, Suruyo, they don't want the corporate, they don't want the federation. But if we are to have the federation operational, then we will not have the bottlenecks he's talking about. And therefore, Ugandans would have access. Yeah, that is our natural right. This, I have strong faith.
Professor, in 1 second, how would you feel if Kenyans also said that look guys, you have fuel in Albertine. So also we should have a share there. Because you see, for some reason, it beats any other person's understanding. For now, the person, as of now, you at least at par with President Museveni. I watched some Kenyan who said that even Mr. Museveni had slept at his home in 80s. And he was saying, how would Ugandans also feel that we also want to have a share of what they collect from the gorillas, in tourism and also the Albertine? Why don't you manage what you have and also discuss diplomatically about how you can also tap into their advantage?
Pan-Africanism. These are resources for Africa. In any case, we are disadvantaged that Tanzania might gain from our oil more than us because the pipeline is passing through Tanzania. If it had gone through Kenya, the Kenyans were going to get a share of the oil.
Do you blame it onto them or to yourselves?
No, definitely the sharing is an African issue. Back in the days, all our African, I remember when I used to go in the village, they would bring one plate. In Africa, would share on one plate. And that is the spirit. And as President Museveni puts it, we should share let Kenyans also share on our oil. Let's share also on the cost. Then also President Museveni, let the people in NRM also have an advantage of being the chairman of also NRM. Don't ring fence it for yourself and for your family. Then you cry for the coastline. The sharing is a natural issue, and Kenyans should understand the spirit. Here, he speaks so maybe arrogant that they think he's talking about taking their seat, but he's saying that as African, if we don't unite, because he talked about the Americans, he talked about the Indians, he talked about, he said the British have failed because of numbers. Now, in this case, he comes as a Pan-Africanist. And if he was true to his words of being a Pan-African, then his speech is in context. I would support him that we have to have equal access to the coast as Africans, because apart from Bismarck, the way he's actually splitting Uganda into many districts is what Bismarck did to split, and those colonialists to split Africa into many. And he's also doing it in our own country.
What are you trying to
we have 150 districts, I think, now. We are
for easy administration, you forget that. You need easy access to your LOC 5, to your district council.
So for me, in the spirit of federalism, let the president, let him walk the talk, and he starts. Actually, you remember 10 years ago, he was saying he was staying so as to help the Federation of East Africa. But what has he done in the 3 Bisanjas they gave him before? No. He should empower some of us who are Pan-Africans, who are after African, East Africa, to federate. If we federate, then we'll not have that issue of the ocean anymore.
If I may ask you, of course, before I cross to Mpambara and Mr. Ochieno, had Kenya had a president of the same reasoning? I don't want to say a warmonger, for lack of another word, but going back to the precedent of April 1978 by Amin, and of course, Mwalimu Nyerere couldn't stand the stubbornness in the courts of Amin. When Amin attacked, you know how things went so bad with the Ugandans. Do you think there could be some bit of war drums? Because as we speak, the Mijingo Island, no one, and I repeat, he used his words, hakuna mtu wa Kenya atavua.
Yeah, unfortunately, unlike...
So, do you think that could be like some bit of war drums, especially with how the Sun tweets also, not once or twice, he has mentioned about attacking Kenya or something?
Yeah, President Museveni talked about the Kenyans being experts in riots. And unfortunately, all the leaders, most leaders of Uganda since independence are experts in riots. In school, they are the people who led riots. Everywhere, I talk about Obote. Obote was discontinued from Makere because he was leading a riot. President Museveni...
I knew Mr. Ochieno would nod his head, but
President Museveni has led riots, government change in Rwanda, Sudan, South Sudan. So this spirit is in the whole, almost half of Africa and Congo. This thing of rioting is what is taking us backwards. Because even in a simple speech where he should have brought up his diplomacy and his point be known like I've brought it up, he's talking of we will fight. Yeah? And unfortunately, many Ugandans actually have been waiting for, which he dodged, I think, intentionally. To say,
I will ask the colleagues in the control room, you will chop this video and send it to Honorable Wish.
These military people, everything is about rioting. Even what we could discuss as citizens. Yeah? And we reach a logical conclusion.
They want war.
They want war. Okay. There is no need of war. It is just a matter of discussion. If we have East Africa, then the federation, then the coast thing will be solved. And we don't need any riot. We just need to have a discussion, a conversation as Uganda first and as East Africa.
Okay, now where do I even begin? Maybe to remind you, Kagame is a major general and your friend, whom you now concur with, is a general. So when that's what he understands best. So if you want your diplomacy, try elsewhere.
Which like
yeah, and actually it's unfortunate that I'm associated with those kinds of even even from the school.
You see, but that is school.
That spirit is what is retrogressing, taking Uganda backward. That everything should be taken out of guns, riots, and that's why you see they fear people who have that inclination on riots more than people who use common sense.
Okay. Councilor Mpambara, begin from there. I will not even have a specific question. You have had what has submitted. May you have rejoinder and or an additional submission.
The tone of delivery was definitely provocative, and I think that's why there are so many different explanations and readings from that speech alone that different people are, trying to understand and put together and interpret. Museveni is a good communicator. I don't put that past him. So his communication is very intentional, and his delivery is definitely intentional. But his frustrations are legitimate, and my colleague has said, for once there's an inclination for some of us to agree with him that
so you want to help him fight the law of nature.
Also, I feel that's a misinterpretation, because in itself, this can lead to war. Frustrations towards access to sea. For so many countries, not just Uganda.
In a second, Mpambara, are there situations where, honestly speaking, Uganda has felt the pinch, like, no, we are suffering this much because we have no coastline? Sure. No, just asking. On behalf of
let
our
me
viewers,
first no, let me first conclude
because the way he
then we get
sounded, it's as if when you want to bring something from Kenya, it's like he goes through a lot. That's how he sounded.
I think with Ruto, he does go through a lot. There have been so many complications and rigidities in that relationship in terms of delivery. And I think, majority of Africans have called Ruto a puppet for the West. So it means there's so many frustrations under there that most times don't even come to the surface for us to know.
Who isn't?
Sorry?
Who isn't, in your view?
No, I mean, when it comes to something like the sea, it's a legal issue.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Because it's already provided by the law that landlocked countries should be able to access.
Yeah. And we have the law that literally hasn't been abused by, I think, by United Nations, where we have access, literally we have access. And they can't wake up in the morning and just block it. But I want to take you back to the video where this gentleman sounds like it's hard to deal with.
No, let's look at the example of the fact that this pipeline has had to go through Tanzania than Kenya, which is a much shorter route. But Uganda has decided to choose Tanzania. What is the underlying issue under the reason why Uganda had to decide that the pipeline is going to go through Tanzania and not Kenya? Do we feel maybe there are certain issues we do not know that are not at the surface, that have not come out to the public, that, there are certain frustrations that perhaps are coming from the Kenyan government for Uganda to not be able to freely and equitably, access? I think for Museveni, it continuously talk about the frustrations that are coming from them accessing those ports, them accessing the sea. They are legitimate. When he's talking about, I feel even that war part is taken out of context. Because if you look at this issue a few years from now, a few decades from now, this is a war. It can cause a war.
He said
so many countries, look at Ethiopia and what it has gone through with Djibouti, what it has gone through with. This is a war-causing situation. So that's what he means. I feel that I'm not a supporter of Museveni at any given time, but the tone was taken out of context. It is legitimate that a situation like this is likely to cause war in the coming years if we don't resolve it.
Mpambara, you declined to put on Mr. Museveni's shoes inter alia, but I will now force you to put them on in regards to this in particular. Would you have come to the media and address the world? Because the president is watched by the world. In that, you called it provocative mode of communication or tone, even when you have ambassadors and other diplomats that should have played that role. So would you have done the same?
No, definitely not. There are so many, we have very key relationships with both Tanzania and Kenya that should be respected through diplomacy. So for most of these conversations, it's usually dialogue. You need to sit down with your fellow leaders, with your fellow heads of states, and come up with a solution. But like he said, he's been frustrated
Would
because...
you consider that as politicking? Because in that case, in fact, I would also push the same question to Mr. Joseph Ochieno. Why now?
I cannot answer on his behalf that way.
He will tell us his foreign policy.
Okay. I've not yet finished.
Yeah, of course, after you to him.
So it should have been a diplomatic conversation, yes. It has put the rest of the countries at tiptoe with Uganda for provoking them like that over a situation that they could have diplomatically sat down and discussed. And I don't know what their conversations are going like between himself and Ruto. Samia, I think in August of this year, committed to all East Africans being able to access the sea, the ocean. So on her end, I think things are okay. Uganda is ably trading. They are okay in terms of Uganda and Tanzania relationships. But for Kenya, I feel there's a rigidity there that maybe is not coming to the surface, and I'm not sure what it is. Where exactly is it that, even just for something as simple as a pipeline, we've had to take a much longer route through Tanzania than Kenya? Does it come back to some of these issues we've been facing? There have been issues where Ugandan security has been arresting Kenyan fishermen on that small part of Lake Victoria.
I wanted to mention it because the same Kenyans were complaining, and they said that they simply didn't say, because what is factual is that Uganda has the biggest part of Lake Victoria. But they said UPDF crosses to even the smaller portion of the waters, and bits and touches the Kenyan fishermen. And Kenyans
They're in
have,
jails even here in Uganda.
Yeah, and Kenyans have played their, diplomacy and, of course, not made noise in courts like the gentleman is making. And maybe also another reminder is that 1989, Arap Moi brought his army up to Busia border and Malaba, wanted to fight with Mr. Museveni. I think
because Museveni had threatened.
You see?
Because the warmonger in Uganda had threatened. Yes.
That is what we want to interrogate. What is it that is between Uganda, when it comes to East African countries, and the warmongering, much as the professor is now pro the gentleman?
No, it's not proper say. It's not proper say. But maybe to conclude, it brings around a big question on whether a statement like that means that from now East Africa should share most of the resources we have, because how is it that now when we cross to DRC to try and dig some gold, now there are issues. When you try to cross to Sudan to dig something, there are some issues. So does that bring a question that, with this integration, or if we are thinking about a federation, that all these should be shared resources? For us to say that we are a united front, we're able to access Kenya's resources, Kenya is able to access Uganda's oil, Uganda is able to cross to Tanzania to access certain things. How does it happen? But also we know that sometimes when some of these solutions fail, countries like Ethiopia have had to buy some land from like Somaliland to be able to access parts of the sea. The US has done the same over a period of time. So is it that we are failing maybe to come to that conclusion that we need to look at other solutions that may be able to resolve this? But also it's us realizing that, the integration of East Africa does not just stop at just access to the sea, trade, investment. The political and social environment as well has to allow free movement of people, of citizens. So if you Kenyans are trying to cross into Uganda and you're arresting them because of political reasons, what integration is that? If others are trying to cross to Tanzania to do the same thing and you're arresting them.
That's what he mentioned, Mpambara, who the president mentioned, that for security reasons. And I'll give you some precedents. I have a gentleman by, I think he was called Eriche Ramirez Sanchez, code name Carlos de Jaco. Americans left US, came, picked him from Khartoum, took him because of the security question, and not him alone. So, is it wrong, in any case, because now you brought this discussion back, for a gentleman to go to Kenya and, of course, have whatever he wants, and before you even go to the entire political integration, that you can still manage independently as a country, go deal with whatever in a micro manner.
Is it okay if I understand the question?
I am repeating. You said one of the things, for instance, that you do not feel comfortable with is, for instance, a gentleman from here going and picking people from Kenya. And also, of course, you mentioned these two activists. But then, where it is a security threat, would that call for the entire political integration, or rather, this can be managed in a micro way, as a single state in isolation?
I think, first of all, if we are not looking at institutions working for the entire East African region, we will have issues like that. Political segregation, social segregation, those are the issues we are talking about. If we are talking about a progressive unit, even politically, by the way, there should be certain things in place, certain systems in place, where you're able to handle such issues. How is it that if Martha wants to come and practice from Uganda, to practice law, you have to remember we have an East African Court of Justice and whatnot, and we are supposed to share values and cooperation and whatnot as a community. She has to apply here in Uganda again to practice and get a certificate, and it complicates things. So what happens when there are actual systems that are working for the entire East African bloc? We do have all those complications. The political question would be the same thing. There would be institutions that cater to all of it. There would be institutions. So we are complaining about, Museveni is complaining about the fact that he's failing to dab down on who exactly is going to be able to talk to access the sea, but it's also his fault. He's been in power the longest. So why are these institutions not working for the entire East African bloc? Why are they not there?
He should feel the pain.
He should be feeling the pain.
Okay.
So again, he shouldn't be crying.
Okay. Let's cross to Mr. Joseph Ochieno, and maybe for the benefit of our viewers, you would gladly share with us what was that you had in terms of the foreign policy, at least because you see this entire discussion, when you look at the gentleman's speech, it has nothing else to do with rather than the foreign policy when it comes to our cooperation and working relationship with our neighbors. Because like I mentioned earlier, Kenyans are also saying, like also Mpambara has mentioned, UPDF does not stop at beating Ugandans, it also stretches its hands to the Chikuyu and the Masai that also trying to do the fishing on our lake, and other waters. And perhaps they do not even have the information on the water boundaries. But look, when we are fishing this side, maybe this is where we stop. Shall we proceed, Mr. Ochieno?
And here we are talking about what was, historically. You know, sadly for you guys, you're ruled by warmongers who came through to power through war, brutal war, in fact. Very sad indeed. In context, the party I represent, the party I am the should-be president for, has never participated in any overt war with any of the neighbors since independence. And we are the party that has governed this country twice through elections, and we're the only party that has never been defeated at elections, or rather defeated out of power. So every time we've been, the people give us the mandate, and local turncoats using foreign interests combine to usurp the power of the people in such crude manners. So Obote 1 and Obote 2, nothing. But in Obote 1, we supported covertly the liberation forces in Congo. We supported the Lumumbist forces at the level of logistics, we would say, but we supported them in principle. In Obote 2, we supported the startup of the SPLA-SPLM in 1983. And in both Obote 1 and Obote 2, we supported the liberation struggles in Southern Africa, both politically, legally, diplomatically, and materially. Quite clearly, in none of those did we commit, boots on the ground, if you want to present it that way. For the Lumumbist one, I'm extremely proud. For the SPLM, it's gone very bad. It's almost criminally embarrassing. For the liberation struggle in Southern Africa, my young friends don't know that they should be proud that it was the foundation of Uganda People's Congress. In South Africa, they very easily forget, except President Mbeki at his inauguration, who formally made that remark. But most importantly, for the purposes, again, of your two, my two colleagues, in particular my younger, fantastic colleague here, that Idi Amin, in fact, was given to the Republic of Uganda, later backed by Gaddafi, that people like to hail, because Amin was used to stop the progressive forces of the UPC administration, particularly because we were then at the time, Obote 1, supporting Lumumbist forces in Congo, and then the anti-apartheid forces, contextualizing these things broadly. Beyond that, we continuously saw ourselves not only as Pan-Africanists, and we're founding members of the Organization of African Unity very robustly with the Kwame Nkrumah, looking towards one African government within as short a time as possible, but recognizing that we would do so through regional integration and consolidating regional unity. So then in 1967, when we constituted the East African Community, it is extraordinary that within a very short time, the community was not only viable, but it was so closely integrated that we possibly needed hardly 5 years more and would almost certainly be operating as one mini government. And the nonsense that is being presented today did not apply at the time, although with the restrictions of borders. I'll tell you through other literature that in 1972, British Prime Minister Ted Heath said that the East African community, if it hadn't collapsed, and I think it was later than that, after the collapse of the East African community, it was going to make it very difficult for them, meaning us, meaning the imperialist forces, to penetrate East African market. I don't know whether your viewers, particularly young viewers, and particularly deep intellectual viewers, get what I'm talking about. And particularly if they're necessarily interested in the dynamics of polity in this country, this region, and particularly this continent. That sort of really is where sometimes we forget. We see glaring men and a few women in town, but when we know they're really agents against the interests of this country and this continent, and they're being pushed by external forces. And so sometimes we see and then we shout about the Musevenis, but not seeing the longer-term strategic implications. That said, therefore, I find it interesting that, as Yvonne says, if Mr. Museveni was a Pan-Africanist, I've said authoritatively and officially, Mr. Museveni is not a Pan-Africanist. You can't be a Pan-Africanist and invade Africa. You can't be a Pan-Africanist and conquer Africa. But before I say I do that, maybe let me pull back to contextualize your question. Obote 1, as I said, those are our involvements. Idi Amin, he invades Tanzania with the consequences. But under Idi Amin's regime, he threatens Kenya, you know. Now, the other interim administrations of Lule, Binaisa, and Mwanga, you could say too short, no incidents. But Mr. Museveni's regime has invaded or threatened to invade every neighbor of Uganda, except only recently Tanzania. Kenya, those threats that you refer, and in fact, 1989, I came from London and I was visiting the region. Of course, I was a refugee, couldn't come here. And I had a very terrible experience. Namanga border coming to Tanzania, to Kenya by road. I think I've talked about it here. So Uganda and Kenya nearly went to war, these warmongers. You know, invaded and occupied Rwanda and caused the genocide there. We were net contributors to the genocide in Burundi. Invaded Congo twice. Contributed to the mess in Sudan. In fact, right now, South Sudan, you know, that shameless thing taking place in Juba is an extension of Uganda's experience. In Kenya, we had, beyond invasion, we had several experiences, including direct interferences in the elections. We've got terrible records. In Somalia, of course, our boys and girls are there on behalf of Anglo-America, not a Pan-Africanist thing. I can stretch into the other neighboring countries. So it's a terrible record for Mr. Museveni. That is not Pan-Africanist. Number 2.
What is it if it's not Pan-Africanism?
No, it's conquest and invasion and operation as Nyampala on behalf of the anti-African forces. Now, you can't be in power in Africa for 40 years and you're Pan-Africanist and you talk the nonsense that Mr. Museveni... But it was so basic. My 2 colleagues find solace in context. I don't. Because for the Museveni, the clever Museveni, interestingly, today I listened to slightly more. If you stretch it from the time that now brings Britain, it's such a contradictory statement. You start from basically saying war, mine, very, very cheap, you know, nursery school conversation, to contextualizing within the region, because we have it. There are global conventions on that govern, you know, landlocked countries. It's never been challenged. It has never been an issue. There's never been any evidence that Kenya is abusing that. It's never happened. By the way, on the question of the oil pipeline, you know, officially it is the case that the Tanzanian route was found to be much more economically viable. Surprise, surprise, allegedly. And then number 2 is true, they raised the security question, but the security question is more of a geopolitical regional politics, which again narrows down to Museveni, Ruto, and their dynamics rather than the reality of Kenya, quote, per se. The people who are paying huge for that are ordinary citizens of Uganda. In 1969, there is the 2 clips. One of them was Mr. Dr. Obote then instructing the Minister for East African Community, and I'll share the clip with you guys, where he says that the Minister for East Africa seated at Arusha, and the East African parliamentarians from Uganda are instructed that when they're in Arusha, and when they go to Arusha, they should legislate and implement legislation and everything else to build one East Africa rather than to serve the interests of Uganda. It's on record. This as early as 1969. And so you do that time as a president, as a governing leader at the time. And then Mr. Museveni comes, East African community is broken by Idi Amin. They try to rebuild it, but they rebuild it around, you know, the gentleman's agreement, and then you begin to integrate. You bring Rwanda because of brotherhood. You bring in Congo because of stolen gold. You bring in Somalia because of, you know. So no, if you're an integrationist, Mr. Museveni should have been saying that as African people, they see without saying man, and the racial opposition you made is important. That Museveni speaks what he genuinely means, and we underestimate it in many ways. All he simply had to say was that, look, you know, we are one people as a continent, and so this sea belongs to us. It's the more reason, if you don't add it, because I'm a linguist too, if you don't add that, the meaning is different. So he didn't add it, and the meaning was different. The meaning was as interpreted by Kenyans, and is extremely arrogant. Okay. So he should really have said that as a continent, the more reason why we should integrate. When you look at the reasons why we don't have an East African government yet, some of the obstacles and the resistance by Tanzania was in part because of the time limit things in Uganda. And that is an interestingly credit to apparently Jakaya Kikwete, who seemed to be very much of a Tanzanian nationalist. But it was not about his holdback, but it was part of his frustration that Uganda did not play part of the ball. But Yvonne, finally, I have said again and again and again, that the regional East African communities, which are very close and viable nation states, the delays was when they were introduced. The new nation states, including Rwanda, part of the convergence criteria, bring them together. You needed to meet some benchmark, economic, social, political, and definitely legal in terms of legislation. As you rightly say, we've got the East African Court of Justice, or whatever it is, and you see the contradictions on Martha Karua. So no, the will is not there. Mr. Museveni and his group are basically taking citizens of this continent for a ride. I don't think the answer is going to come from my kind soon. I think the answer lies in younger Africans, younger East Africans of your generation that you guys drive, younger Africans at universities and colleges debating, and younger Africans engaging in the political processes and demanding that we want one African government now. Our young people in the 60s demanded for that. We young people of the 80s demanded for that. And we demanded for liberation struggles in South Africa. And I organized rallies and demonstrations, you know, about these things, global, about Africa. I don't see why Museveni does this thing. Ugandans are quiet. Universities are quiet. Professors are quiet. Political leaders are quiet. Political leaders are quiet. Of course not him. You know the course I'm trying to come out, you know. And sort of really mini business as usual. What does it take? It's actually causing more bad blood. Meaning tomorrow when we discuss conversations around integration, you'll find you'll find it much more dirtier a language in Kenya or perhaps in Mwanza. And of course more recently the Agatha unacceptable thing doesn't help it at all.
I want to give you 1 minute so that
Yes.
you can use it to also air out your closing remarks, but also with this question. How differently would you have managed the situation? Because she was avoiding his issues.
No, I got
how differently would you have addressed
it was completely unnecessary. And by the way, on this one, I found the journalists who were there laughing rather than challenging Mr. Museveni. I find it actually extraordinary. You know, journalism is part of my trade, you know, for the state. I expect it to be better. That a journalist should not you don't let a head of state make such an outrageous statement and let him get with it. There was no need. By the way, have you guys ever asked why Museveni said so? Have Ugandan goods been blocked in Kenya? You know, what caused that? It wasn't. It was completely unnecessary. It was a provocative thing, so it doesn't apply. Okay. Dealing with that, I would be saying that by now, particularly if I had been a president for 4 years, you know, the East African integration would be much more of a reality in 4 years than Museveni's 40 years.
Sorry, I cannot live without asking you this. You mean, where, in the event that diplomacy fails, completely, which other measures would you use as UPC?
There's been no circumstance in which diplomacy would fail about access to the sea. No, let me tell you this. No, because it's important for your viewers, and you're a lawyer.
Yeah, let me add.
I don't know.
Answer both of them.
Yeah.
You seem to sound that there is no way how diplomacy could have failed, and I want to also put on to you as UPC. When Amin had issues with, of course, with you and let alone with TZ, you did not give him a chance of diplomacy. You and Nyerere considered going, of course, applying force. Are you good at applying diplomacy as UPC?
No, we are the most fantastic in applying diplomacy, and the evidence has prevailed. We don't necessarily have the time to do so. In any case, actually, the main thing was, one, particularly, the fact, as Roger said, that Bruto Idi Amin, Gaddafi's friend, they dared Tanzania, indeed invaded Tanzania, and have got detail. Nyerere, when he came from the briefings on the ground, particularly in terms of what happened in Kagera, he was furious. The guy was extremely emotionally mad. He nearly was getting crazy. The manner in which his country had been humiliated, and we're talking lots of people. The manner in which Tanzanians had been killed for nothing. So we did the right thing, and in any case, Amin had been brought into here by forces backing apartheid and Zionism. So the sooner we got rid of Idi Amin and liberated this country for you guys, the better, except we saved it, and now we've liberated it for
now, let's, Professor, we have this discussion deserved longer time, but of course, by God's grace, we shall maybe create the same time, and maybe okay, we shall have a different arrangement.
I think so.
Yeah, Professor, how different is Mr. Museveni's Pan-Africanism from that of Gaddafi, Kwame Nkrumah, of course, Patrice Lumumba, and
Obote. Yes.
And Nyerere? How different? You have 2 minutes, much as it may not be as enough, but of course, being an intellectual, I know you can summarize that. And then the same question to Mpambara. When you are answering, your closing remarks should follow, and so should Mpambara.
Yeah, President Museveni, before he was a diplomat, if you see all his speeches from 1986 to 96 to about 1996, but these days he is a bully. And in any case, these people, why?
Do you have evidence? You see, as a lawyer, do you have evidence?
Oh, why? Even those ties, the Kenyans, because now the man sits with those ministers of East Africa, and these are guys who have changed over time. At one time, they were even minister of state, this is their country, county chiefs, and he has been president 40 years. So when he comes in a meeting, they feel he's bullying them. So that's why they are like, let's touch these nutties, and this he has no serious. And you see, Uganda is suffering because of having a bully president. Diplomacy, he knows, you come to negotiate at equal level.
Yeah.
Have you seen, just like you see in Uganda here, does Museveni still have colleagues he talks to as how he used to talk to Elia Kategaya, the Shakers? He just talks to the Nabanjas, and now he thinks the way he talks to Nabanja is how he will talk to, and remember, Kagame was the one who showed him, because facts are here. Kagame one time used to brush his shoes. So when he still comes, he has that mentality that he will bully him. And Kagame intentionally, I was present at one time in the Old Boys Association in Ntare, when he told him, you people, even if you helped me, even if you are my boss at one time, now I'm the president of Rwanda. And indeed, when we had a diplomatic issue with Rwanda, it was not between Uganda and Rwanda. It was between President Museveni and President Kagame.
So what is wrong with Mr. Museveni talking to Nabanja? How different does he talk to Nabanja?
He's telling you diplomacy.
No, now let me tell you, like how he talks to his cabinet ministers of now.
Wait a second, Professor. How different does Mr. Museveni talk to Nabanja vis-a-vis how he talks to
Rugunda?
Rugunda
definitely is a diplomat, and he's also a colleague, an elder of his own right. So it's how he commands him, he's like, well, Mr. Rugunda will do this. Mr. Rugunda said, no, President Museveni in diplomacy, it is not right to... Before he finishes...
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, he goes to... So that attitude is the same attitude when he's speaking to his colleagues. He still has that mentality. I will bulldoze them, and these guys are like, but you know, this is a sovereign country.
Okay,
then they call their guys. Okay, even if they agree in that meeting with Ruto, he says, don't give him one. So all these are gimmicks behind to discipline him to show him that we are a sovereign state, and you will not bully us.
Okay, now you have a minute, because now we can't add anything. And then and then we shall leave here. Because you're calling our president a bully, but those are your words. So they're not words of this session. You know that disclaimer. Every
I hope you
idea
don't want to put me in trouble, because you asked me, and that is, I think, will put us in trouble. In my opinion, as an academic,
you should have this fine. In your opinion,
in my opinion, and these are also not my words.
You are not. No,
not my words.
Mpambara, you have less than 40 minutes.
As a lady,
yeah,
okay.
Sure. Closing, but and of course, don't use a disclaimer. You say those are your words, not just like you said. That is his word. You are not obsessed, so you aren't attacked by any spirit. So those still remain your words. Mpambara, you have 40 seconds, and then give closing remarks. Of course, summarizing the entire topic of discussion, and then shall leave here.
Interesting, the names you've called Pan-African.
Yeah, sure.
I don't consider Gaddafi a Pan-African. He killed so many people. And it's very unfair to call someone who has butchered his own people a Pan-African. So we'll begin from there. So it begins from the fact that if you do not have that love for your own people, then it's very hard for you to display it in other forms of how you govern. It's very difficult. So I would not put him in the same leagues as Nkrumah. I would not put him in the same leagues as that's very unfair. It's very unfair to them.
But I think it's because we are out of time. When it comes to different scholars, you see, Pan-Africanism and or patriotism is interpreted differently, of course, depending on what lenses a specific individual.
But scholars have got benchmarks.
Yeah, sure. Because we have had so many people. Back in the day before Gaddafi had issues with the French president and so many other, with the West, when he was trying to rebuild Africa, having one currency, you know, it is believed they paid too much money to the, okay, I won't mention the names of some Western media houses, to ensure that they paint him as a
so they were doing their version, and by that time, Gaddafi, since Gaddafi and Amin, you know, causing the butcher of our people, you know, there is no way in which you can qualify Gaddafi that. But like Yvonne is saying, partly because of media narratives, many Ugandans follow Gaddafi like a zombie, think the guy is whatever, and partly because he threw arms on behalf of these other people to break the neck of a democratic Ugandan citizen, but the people on the name of Islam. So I think this is a topic that we genuinely need to discuss.
We need time to re-debate this, especially Pan-Africanism and its theories.
Yeah, sorry.
I give you 40 seconds. Again,
no, let me conclude. So I think for regional stability, it's very important to consider the fact that we need a very diverse and intersectional approach to what integration is going to look like. And you can't integrate if our political and social question is still different, and we assume that every other thing is going to flow easily, simply because, you know, we are pushing for access to the sea, or we are pushing for trade or investment, for free access. If we are not able to have free movement of people, free labor, free within the region, the other things will not move. It will not move. So for regional stability, all these things have to work together for us to establish the kind of federation we are looking for East Africa. So again, Museveni, I don't know what he was thinking, because it's majorly his fault. If he's the father of nations of Africa, I don't think he should be having these kinds of complaints right now.
Okay, viewers, as you have heard, you will of course highlight what I said and each one of us what they said. But of course not in bad faith, because every single contribution that the gentleman and the lady aired out are not in bad faith. They aim out to ensuring that Uganda remains peaceful, in fact becomes more peaceful, and so should the region be, and the entire Africa as a continent, and of course globally. We believe that when we are here, we add some bit of crystal contribution towards ensuring that the world becomes a better place for all of us to live. Let me sign out. and catch you some other time, Norman.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues,